Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. What a day it was yesterday. It finally announced that Sesko is going to stay at RB Leipzig. So that deal is definitely not going to happen. But was this just a smokescreen? Is Mikel Arteta and Edu going for different targets? We will be talking about those targets. We'll select some players like Gyökeres. And the first question straight away for Cozy. How are you? And are you panicking? There's a lot of the fan base that is panicking even before the transfer windows open. They're like, "Oh my goodness, Obi's leaving, Sesko, you're not getting him. It looks like it's impossible to get Isaac. Are we actually going to get anyone, or are we going to go without a striker?" But are you panicking or are you calm?
I'm absolutely fine. Like I've always told people that when you see me and Glenn, you just know that we have had a fantastic discussion before we even come live because you've always got to catch up. So for me, I'm not panicking. I'm not really panicking, and I've seen many people, especially on Twitter, going crazy. Arsenal have not signed anyone. Arsenal have not done this and that. Look at Chelsea. Look at Juventus. Look at Aston Villa. I don't think Arsenal have a reason to panic. I don't think we're still laying foundations. And therefore, if we don't sign one or two players, Arsenal are not going to have a good structure. I think we have last season was the last part of laying these foundations, laying the structures. At the club. When you bring in a player like Declan Rice, the midfield is sorted for life. When you bring in a player like Kai Havertz, who has now turned into a striker. He's just 25. Your forward line is sorted for life. And then you have a back line which is very young and very good in terms of complementing each other. So for me, if you're out there and you're an Arsenal fan and you're panicking, you are just desperate to see a signing. And you're not desperate to see a signing that's going to help Arsenal. You're just desperate to see a signing that, you just love a new signing, just love a new deal. Anyone is out there that feels we're not going to do any deal, someone who really just wants to do a new deal, go to the shop, get a new black shirt like this one, purchase it. That will be a new addition to your collection, and then just calm down. The window is not even open, and I always say this on my streams. The window is not even open yet. It's today is 12th, right? We have
Mhm.
2 days, 48 hours to the official opening of the transfer window. Even if Arsenal really signed 100 players right now, you wouldn't be able to register them, anyway. So I don't think I'm panicking. I don't know why people are panicking, but of course I've been there, and I think slowly but surely the fans will start feeling that Arsenal are behaving like a big club. uh, it comes from the nostalgia that Arsenal have not been a very good side in terms of doing top deals, and also in terms of consistently doing the right thing for 3, 4, 5 years. So under Sen Wenger, we know what happened. We used to sell our best players and then replace them with less quality. Under Une
Mhm.
Emery, he asked for one good player, he was given another, who eventually ended up being the biggest loss Arsenal have ever done. They were signing probably in terms of mega money. And maybe that nostalgia makes it a little bit justifiable for people to say, why aren't we doing deals? Why aren't we making things happen? But 10 days, 12 days into the transfer window, I don't think that nostalgia is going to kick in for me. I've already seen what Arsenal have done. I know this project, even if we didn't add one single player, can win the FA Cup, can win the Carabao Cup, can finish in the quarterfinals of the Champions League again, and we can push Manchester City again. So no panicking, no nostalgia. I am 100% confident with where we are.
I'm not right at all. Not signing Sesko is not going to make me sleep for sure. Yes, if Atta really wanted him and he ended up joining Man United or someone, then at that point you can say, okay, maybe a bit of worry, you can go and get someone else. But the last couple of transfer windows, we were able to get players like Declan Rice ahead of Man City, Havertz ahead of Bayern Munich. I'm not right at all. If they want to play, I know the negotiation skills are great. I know the panic comes from Chelsea getting Modric. That was 2 years ago. He had not been in two consecutive title races. Arsenal not getting Tielemans or not getting Douglas Luiz back in the day, or not getting Benzema and Higuain and Villa and all those guys we were ever linked to. For me, I'm not really worried. The transfer window is not opened. And I'm sure they're going to get deals done. I'm sure they know that we are only a couple of points behind Man City. They know we are only, a couple of rounds away from a Champions League final. We need to keep on improving the team. Maybe the media doesn't know about what you're going to do, and that is why people are panicking. And the moment a couple of stories come out, and both of them don't end up your way, then people are worried because they're like, okay, we're
Yeah,
not getting
yeah.
Sesko. Okay, we're also not getting Isaac. Okay, also not getting Douglas Lewis. But the transfer window is not open. There'll be a lot of business. Man City have not signed anyone neither. Liverpool have not signed anyone neither. Chelsea have got a transfer, a free transfer, which is easier to do. So I'm not really worried. Now, Sesko has decided to stay at Leipzig. All the best to him. He's not going to be living there. But was this just a smoke screen, Cozy? Now, there's this report from Dean Jones, who said the first part of that. I was told over the weekend Arsenal had been happy for all the talk publicly about them signing Sesko as their main target because they were actually in background talks elsewhere. Do you think this is actually true? And Atene do, are smiling right now and they're like, haha, look at these guys. Look at the Arsenal fans crying again. Look at the media thinking you're going to sign Sesko. Our plan has worked. Maybe now they're not thinking we are going to go for, I don't know, it's a different player from Spain, or they didn't see this one coming. Watkins to Arsenal, they didn't see this one coming. You never know. So, do you think it's actually accurate that it was just a smoke screen, or do you think they actually really wanted him as a top
I,
target?
I mean, I'm gonna say this. That is bad journalist from Jones. I like him as a
Mm,
journalist. I really, really think he's a very, very credible source, and I use him on every single daily basis. And that is poor journalism. You've got to come out and acknowledge that things have not gone as you reported, because he's been a
mm,
consistent reporter that Arsenal are big admirers on Sesko, and they think they're confident, and they think that they're front runners ahead of Chelsea and Manchester United. And should he leave Leipzig, he's gonna go to Arsenal. And then he's just come out and absolutely blown whatever kind of hard work is put into through the weeks, just to make sure that he wins over a few clicks, a few views, by calling it a smoke screen. It is not a smoke screen. It was never a smoke screen. That is how release clauses work. And we've talked about release clauses on this channel, on my channel, and on this podcast all the time. Release clauses work in a way that even if you talk to the club and you agree a fee, or you trigger the release clause, as long as the player has not given you his decision, you cannot sign him. As long as the player has not agreed personal terms with you, you cannot sign him. So there is no way Arsenal were not interested in Benjamin Sesko, and this is for one or two reasons. Number one, yes, we know that this could have been worked by his agent, but
yeah.
even the most reliable, news outlet in the Athletic came out and said Arsenal are big on Sesko. And go and read their story. The Athletic, the one they have done after Sesko making his decision. Their third line is Arsenal. It's a big a big blow to transfer plans at Arsenal, because they knew they were getting him if he didn't stay at RB Leipzig, and he was a priority target. He was a top target among centre forwards appreciated by the club. So it was never a smoke screen. What could have been a smoke screen is maybe Sesko, this Sesko talk and Arsenal working on a midfielder. This Sesko talk going on and Arsenal working on a left back. But him not being on our priority list, him not being among the strikers we want, and we're just using him as smoke screen to sign another striker. That is absolutely not true. It was a very good deal. When you think about the profile of strikers we're looking for, it was a very good deal for 55 million for a 21-year-old striker who has consistently developed through the last 3 years. That was a bargain. Like, you don't just get strikers who have been trained well for 1,000 days, and then you wake up and say, oh, we never wanted him, right? Because that's what the media are now saying. Oh, by the way, Arsenal never wanted him. Are you serious? Arsenal were the leading name on that story. Arsenal, are you telling me that the agent paid the Athletic, they paid Fabrizio, they paid all the big houses, they paid the Guardian, just to run that story, just to run around with that story? It's not true. So for me, that's bad journalism. That's poor journalism. You've got to acknowledge that you called the shots and the shots didn't come your way, and then you move on. I mean, give us something else. He's one of these journalists that are really getting highly connected these days. Give us something else. If the striker thing is cooling down, where Arsenal pointing their focus. If you don't know anything, silence is also always an option.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, But in terms of not being the only target, that is true. I
Yeah.
don't think Sesko is the only target that Arsenal have. There's definitely other players there. In fact, I think the first video I did in this transfer window was talking about Gyökeres being Arsenal's top priority. That was even before Sesko and all that news came out. So the second part of Dean Jones in his comment, he said, "My information has been that Arsenal did not even plan to sign anyone in June, and the main business will come a bit later on." So for me, I personally don't not worried about when the business is coming. I'm sure they're going to get a couple of players before the transfer window, before the preseason. I don't know whether it's going to be tomorrow, it's going to be the end of the week, or it's going to be 2 weeks from now. As long as they get the business done, it's not going to be easy. The Euros is going on, the Copa America is going on. These days, the market has been crazy now. If you want players, you have to pay 80, 90 million. And on top
Yeah.
of that, FFP problems. I don't think all of these problems were there like 3 years ago, especially FFP and in players are asking for 100 million and wages in terms of 200,000 plus. All that is very complicated. Now, Sesko, that is it with Sesko. So you have to move to the next target. We cannot sit down and worry about Sesko. He did not go into any other team. He decided to stay at Leipzig. That can happen. Players can decide to stay. Now, who is the next target? Is it going to be Viktor Gyökeres or his countrymate? Now, according to The Guardian, interest from Arsenal in Newcastle's Alexander Isak and Sporting's Viktor Gyökeres, two Sweden strikers, has dwindled due to the massive fees it would take to sign them. And a move for Brentford's Ivan Toney also looks unlikely at this stage. So, Gyökeres, let's start with Gyökeres. If you were given, because the transfer plan has to change. If you're not getting Sesko for 50 million, all the other strikers are 100 million plus, unless you go for someone totally different. If Atene do approached you and they told you, or this guy said, okay, because this time we are going to give you the money. We are going to give you 160 million. Please help us win the league next season. Are you going to right away say, okay, 160 million? Okay, I'm going to take 110 million and I'm going to go and buy Gyökeres immediately. Would you do that?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, I'm the biggest of the two of us. I'm the biggest one on the striker issue, and I think we need a goal scorer. But I'm lucky enough that I have followed more of the transfer window for quite a longer time, even before beginning content creation, and I've kind of understood how the transfer window works. Compare if you compare the first part of the transfer window, June and July, to the last part of the transfer window, that is August, end of July and August. Those two parts of the transfer window work very, very differently. And that's why you'll find yourself in a situation where you get a player costing 60 million euros, working for 34 million euros, or even walking into a loan deal at the end of the window. How much would I be willing to pay for Sesko? Not 100 million euros,
For
not 90
Gyökeres.
million for Gyökeres,
So
not
Sesko is deep in your head now. Sesko
yeah,
is deep in your
definitely.
head now.
Yeah, definitely. Not 100 million euros, not 95 million euros. What I would say with Benjamin Sesko, come on, Viktor Gyökeres, if we were given the budget, I think it's kind of a waiting game. It's about us, calling our shots and then waiting for Sporting Lisbon to come from where they are. Gyökeres is a very good striker. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's a fantastic talent, but there are not so many clubs that are going to come out and pay that amount. So no need to panic. We don't have to. We don't have to panic. We just have to play our cards right. Kind of play the waiting game, and at some point in time, Viktor Gyökeres is going to notice that not many clubs actually are in for him. And that is what you want to do. You want to wait until Chelsea get Duran. You want to wait until Leipzig keep their, Sesko that's done. You want to wait until Manchester United confirm that they're not going for an 85 million striker. And therefore, Sporting are looking around. They're like, really? Are we really going to sell to anyone this summer? And the only club remaining is Arsenal. So when you put them in that position, Viktor Gyökeres, who has had a fantastic season, wants to play with a Champions League, in a club, with Premier League football, is going to be like, hey guys, how about you lower my demands? How you lower your demands, and the price, and then we all get a deal that we can, be proud of, right? And that's where I would see maybe the price coming down from 100 to maybe 90, and then maybe probably 80, which I think a deal will be done between 70
Do you
to
think they're
80
desperate
million.
to sell though?
I don't think they're desperate to sell, but with Portuguese clubs, I think again they're very good in terms of doing business. They know he is not going to replicate those numbers. They know
Mm,
he's not
mm.
replicating those numbers. He has had a knee surgery, right? That could also be another factor that he doesn't even come close to those numbers again, right? So this is the best season to sell. Like it's for them. If they were farmers, it has rained and it's time now to sow.
Mm.
Like it's time to plant. There is no question about it. It's the favorable conditions. 50 goal contributions. You ask for 60 million, you're given. You ask for 70 million, you're given. You ask for 80 million, you're given. Right. So for me, I would go in for Gyökeres. I would not pay 100 million. I'd play the waiting game, and at some point in time, both parties would eventually meet somewhere.
Now, something we know is that Arteta doesn't like the waiting game. He wants his
Yeah, true.
deals done in the next 1 month. So I don't know how that will affect that. So you've spoken about the numbers. 43 goals and 15 assists. That is
Assists, yeah.
58 goal contributions
Contribution,
and
yeah.
in 49 matches. So he basically threw in, an extra 9 assists on top of the, goal per game and assist per game. So he has more. Like the thing that caught my eye really was the assists as well, because there's strikers who are going to get you those, 43 goals, but 2 assists,
Two assists,
maybe
five
something like
assists.
that. Yeah, but even Haaland, this season he had like two or something assists. But this kind of player, I think Atta loves this kind of player. Players like Jesus, but okay, a better finisher. A player who's going to come and, play part of the team, and he can get an assist. He's not all about the goals as well, but he still loves scoring goals. He still get you 20 plus goals, but he'll also get you some assists as well, because he can
Yeah.
cross the ball or he can pick out a through pass and stuff like that. And, he can dribble. He's a striker who can run in behind. He can finish with both feet. And he was my first option alongside Isaac when you were talking about strikers at the beginning of the after the end of the season. I was like, I want Gyökeres or Isaac. I've already made up my mind. I want Gyökeres or Isaac. If Isaac is not possible, I'm going to get Gyökeres. Even if people are saying it's a one hit wonder or whatever, it's not easy to get those numbers. And he also scored good goals at Coventry. And then we also obviously heard about Sesko later on, and then we thought this one had
Yeah.
gone quiet. Now the only issue is that knee injury, but I'm hoping it's just a thing to do with maybe once, not again. He's going to miss around 6-7 weeks, and 6-7 weeks, that
That is
means
the
he
Euros.
basically, yeah,
That's the Euros.
he basically comes back when our preseason starts. If we had him,
Yeah.
he basically
Yeah.
comes when our
And
preseason starts. So
actually as well, the other thing I would want to say, if Mikelata and Edu don't find a room to wiggle with in terms of financially, one thing we can do is we can let go of this fullback left back obsession that
mm,
is completely useless at the moment. It's not useless. I mean, if the manager wants a left back, then definitely you've got to look into it. But that is something that can be done a little bit later. I don't think us with the left backs we have, with the left back options we have, Arsenal failed to win the league because of the left back options. I don't think so. I don't think that us going to Brighton and getting a very, very cheap deal for Steele as second backup goalkeeper, that limits us from winning the league. That actually does not. So really our two priorities, to be honest, our two priorities right now in this Arsenal team at the midfield and that attack. You could add two players to the attack, but I won't be even surprised if Arsenal don't get in a winger. Like we know Mikel wants to play Saka almost every game, and he's going to play him each and every game when whether you have a backup or not. Obviously, you want to shield yourself in against things like what if Saka is injured, what if he's not available, what if he's broken, things like that. But I would say that attack and that midfield, first dedicate your resources there. If you've been given 100 million or 150 million, first dedicate your resources there, because those are the two areas where Kai Havertz is absent and you're all of the sudden really, really bare bones. Like you're working on your skeleton, right? You've gone back to
mm.
Eddie Nketiah settings. You've gone back to worse than Eddie Nketiah setting. If Nketiah stays and Kai stays and Jesus does pick up injuries. So if he picks up an injury, you're left with Kai Havertz and Eddie Nketiah. In
I
any
don't think
case,
it is going to stay at all. I don't
Yeah,
think he's going
I
to
mean,
stay.
I pray it
So you're
doesn't.
basically left with Havertz by himself.
You're basically left with a harvest. So if anything happens to Havertz, because he's human, he's a footballer, he's durable, but he's human and he's a footballer. There are collisions, there are things, he could get a concussion or 5 yellow cards. In the next game, who are you looking at, right? You might gamble with your ESR there, you might gamble with your maybe Martinelli there, but you have the chance. Always remember that when you have a chance to do something right, do it, and then for the future, you are going to thank your older self. So I would say um just wiggle with with that budget, work on the midfield, work on the attack. If there is anything like 10 million left, you could do some sales, and you can you can bring in a left back, and then you can bring in a more expensive goalkeeper if that's what you're looking at.
It's interesting because obviously the Arsenal fans would say totally different from what you said in terms of
Yeah,
being patient with the Gyökeres and stuff. People are like, no, buy him today. Chelsea
yeah,
like jacket and stuff. And people are saying, sell Smith Rowe Nelson today and Jesus right now by tomorrow.
yeah,
I don't think it's as easy as that. And anyway, I don't want Jesus to go. And Fonkete, I think, is definitely going to leave. I've just talked about it in last night's video. I think he's definitely going to leave. There's and because I don't think he's a player who just wants to stay on the bench for the whole season. Because even if we didn't sign a striker and Havertz was there and Jesus was there, there's no Nketiah is not going to play. He's not being used at all. I think it'd be better for him to move on. It's reached a time where almost 85% of the fan base really don't trust him, and that's a problem. If it's 50
yeah,
50, you can get like 30% from that other side to your side and make it 80% fans like you. But in terms of there's already like 85% who don't like you, that becomes a problem. But Gyökeres, last one on Gyökeres, if they say, listen, Kazi, are you paying 100 million? You get out of here. What did you do? Up until the end of July, and they've not budged. They're like 100 million, or maybe a Man City or Liverpool came in at 98 million. You're told, Kazi, last chance, 100 million, or we finish the deal with Man City or someone.
I would walk away. I would walk away from that deal, honestly,
Mm,
because I don't think it's worth it. I think
mm,
we are really in need, but not desperate in that
mm.
position. It's a position we can address next summer. And with the amount of goal scoring midfielders and wingers available on the market, you
Yeah.
can go and get a goal scoring winger, add a few goals to that side. Arsenal have already been scoring goals, like you've already said. 88 plus 90 goals. So there's no problem with us scoring goals. We just
You know who I
need,
would like?
yeah.
I would absolutely love Bowen at Arsenal.
Uh, that is a realistic option because our left hand side is the one that we are looking at to score goals. Like every single season for the last 2 seasons, we have had Martinelli 15, Trossard 11 last season, right? So
Mm.
it looks like our left hand side is really good with goals. So you can get a player who is good at scoring goals and consistent. We might actually score a lot of goals on that
And he
side.
can play, as a centre forward as
And
well.
he can, yeah, and
Um,
he can play as a centre forward
He
too.
can help Sark on the right side, but West Ham. If you, I'm sure, if you say you want Bowen right now, West Ham are going to say 110 million. So it would be absolutely impossible once again. But I would absolutely love Bowen. Now let's talk about a couple of others. So not a couple. I have 5 strikers to discuss with Cozy. Let's take around 3-4 minutes on each one of them. Now, Ivan Tony, because I'm on this one. Is it this one? I think it's this one. So, Guardian said, Ed said, a move for Brentford's Ivan Tony also looks unlikely at this stage. So, if we run out of ideas completely or no options at all, and Ivan Tony says, listen, I'm still open to coming to Arsenal. Do you guys want me? Would you be willing to say, okay, 65, 70 million, let's go back to Brentford, let's go back for Tony, and maybe he's the only option, let's get him? Or are you done with him completely, don't want him at all? And
65,
why?
70 million. The problem with Ivan Tony is what
Mm,
you've just said.
mm,
You know, Brentford will value him as a 60 and above million, striker, or 50 and above million striker, because that is their prized asset. That is the guy they
mm,
have, that they know if we are going to get some good money out of a player, this is the player. Now,
yeah.
for me, with a new striker coming in, I'm also looking at Gabriel Jesus' future. Gabriel
Mm,
Jesus is with his injury record, but also with the fact that he's one of those players that, um, you know, will give you. He can play 4 games and then disappears for 6 games, right? I see him highly as a player who's going to leave Arsenal in the next 2 years, this
mm,
year inclusive. So between
mm,
2024 and 2025, I really see him out of the door. Now, if we brought in a player like Ivan Toney this year and next year, does it really be the Gabriel Jesus, backup? I mean, kind of replacement?
Replacement. Yeah.
I really don't think so. I really don't think so. I think he's older, right? We would benefit from his experience right now, but signing him for 60, 70 million right now, that is not a very good decision for the future. Now, if that is money I would spend on a player like Julian Alvarez, because I know with Julian Alvarez, when I lose Gabriel Jesus, he's gonna stay. He's gonna be there still. And that's why I'm like, the profile of Sesko, the profile of Gyökeres, the profile of Joshua Zaxi, those are very good profiles. The reason is you are going to keep them even when you lose a player like Gabriel Jesus. You are going to groom them to be the next second option or even first choice striker. Ivan Toney, no. And I also think that Arsenal needs someone who's going to work kind of side by side with Kai Havertz. When I look at both of their
Mm.
profiles, when they're playing up forward, they don't
Similar.
have yeah, they're very, very similar. They're very, very similar. The difference
Mm.
between them is that the build of Ivan Toney. But whatever he does, I think Kai does, because Kai is built as a midfielder. So his passing is good, his reading of the game is very good, and he's also a little bit cleverer in terms of
Mm.
running into untracked channels,
Mm.
which you don't have a player with a player like Ivan Toney. So for me,
So
Ivan Toney,
yeah.
I think that's a ship we should allow to sail on.
So if Havertz was not there, do you have a problem with Ivan Toney's playing style? If he's just the number
No,
nine, do you think he'd do everything that we want?
playing style, I don't have a problem with him. I don't have a problem with him. I think his
Mm.
center forward play is very, very advanced, even more advanced than Ivan Ferguson, who I like a lot. I like a striker who can, have the ball glued onto himself, and whatever defenders do, he's not letting go of it. I like that. I like a striker who is very confident. I like a striker who is a bully. I like a striker who is energetic, physical, and I like a striker who scores all sorts of goals. That is Ivan Toney. So I wouldn't have a problem with him. And maybe if he was a little bit younger, is it 28 now?
28, and also have a problem with his attitude as well.
I mean, with his attitude, I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% in.
I don't think I'd start. I don't I'd would
Yeah,
sign him
yeah, maybe
because
that. I
he has
mean,
a
he
problem with
he,
his
he, he
attitude.
might
Yeah.
fail to work with Mikel. But I'll definitely say if we didn't have Kai Havertz, he would
Mm.
be a more he would be a more popular option. But because there is Kai, don't
Mhm.
see the reason of him. Don't see
Okay,
the
so
reason of him.
we'll do a quick fire at the end. But we've talked about Sesko. Obviously, that's done. We've talked about Gyökeres and Ivan Toney. Okay, they've told you, listen, Cozy, okay, fine. You're not going to pay that money for Ivan Toney, but listen, we are running out of options now in the Premier League. You don't have anyone else apart from a guy who plays for AFC Bournemouth, Dominic Solanke. Cozy, that is your only remaining option. 65 million. Dominic Solanke, that is the only option remaining. Would you take it, or would you be like, nah, I'd rather even just go and look for a winger now and just stick with Havertz for next season? Dominic Solanke, you've been linked with him in January. There was a part of people saying, listen, let's just get him. Personally, I see him as a signing you make in January and you're trying to finish the season off nicely, but not you have 3-4 months to get a signing and then you decide on him. But he scored, I think, 20 Premier League goals. You're scoring hat tricks, braces, and he's playing against the same teams you're playing. But do you think he would take us to the next level in terms of strikers?
Um, I look at him as I look at him as the Real Madrid striker, the Spanish guy who scored two goals against Bayern,
Awesome.
Joselu.
Yeah. Yeah.
With such kind of players, they will have a good season.
Mm.
Andy Carroll, Christian Benteke, Dominic Solanke. When you
Mitch.
find them, Michu, when you
Mm.
find them, please don't sign them. Please. That one season is
Mm.
all. That one
Mhm.
season is all. Divock Origi, Romelu Lukaku. Don't sign them. That one season
Yeah.
is all, right?
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, Dominic Solanke is a mid-table striker
Mm.
who has overperformed. Now, overperforming and overachieving, you look at it in this way. If someone asked you, would you place $1,000 for Borussia Dortmund to reach the Champions League final again next season?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. would you it's a bit of luck, and it's a bit of you know, favorable conditions. A new manager has come in, changed the way they've played. It's the same
Mm,
like Mateta. You don't expect Mateta to terrorize the Premier League like he has terrorized clubs this season. No,
mm,
right? Like if Solanke came in at Arsenal, like
mhm.
Andy Carroll went to Liverpool, like Christian Benteke went to Liverpool, he will absolutely disappoint you. I am giving
Yeah.
you my word. He will definitely disappoint you. And for 65 million pounds, how they have put a release clause in his contract, is it a release clause? It's just a demand. Because I don't know how.
It's they're saying if it's a big team that signs him, it's 65 million. If it's a smaller team,
Oh,
less than that. They're basically saying, basically bullying the bigger teams.
oh, interesting. So for me, Solanke, for 15 million is a
Mm,
deal I wouldn't do. I would
mm,
let him be. Like Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a good season some season. We
yeah.
all remember. And people on my live streams were going crazy. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, how don't you want this guy? How don't you want Dominic? Come on, one good
Mm,
season. Like Edin Ketia can score 17 goals or 18 goals in a season, right? But that will not make him your Erling Haaland. That will not make
mm,
him your Robert Lewandowski. You can see a
mhm.
good striker when you see one. So for me, Solanke, 15 million, that's a deal I don't do, honestly, unless Arsenal is saying we sign him for 15 because it's a huge opportunity on the market and we move him on for 30.
Sri Lanka is 65 million. So, okay, interesting. Now, so Kosi says no to Solanke, and
Now,
the fans are saying no to Solanke, and people are like, okay, Tony, not really, and people are like, okay, Yoko is a bit expensive. They give you a flight, and they tell you, Kosi, you're going to France. There's a guy you've been linked to for the last 3-4 years. He's called Jonathan David. Are you still interested in Jonathan David?
Jonathan David. Now, I'm going to give him credit, Jonathan, for being
Mm,
a little bit consistent, right?
mm,
The
mm,
media has kind of turned away from him a little bit, but
mm.
he's been, really, really consistent ever since we were linked with him. I think what 3 years ago, he's been
Yeah,
slowly
long
but
time ago.
surely, improving his numbers.
Yeah.
Now, what Arsenal need right now is a center forward, right?
Mm,
That
mhm,
has got that bit of killer instinct. I've looked at Jonathan David. I don't think his game is bad actually.
mm,
This one is one I would say the price dictates. If they
mm.
overprice him, I don't think Arsenal should pay more than 40 million euros for the services of Jonathan David. If it's above
26
40,
goals, 26 goals last season, 26
yeah,
goals the previous season.
yeah, 40 million euros, 40 million euros, that's the selling. Why? Because I kind of look at him as a Brentford profile. Like if Brentford lost Ivan Toney, they're
Mm,
definitely going for Jonathan David. West
yeah.
Ham right now, as they look to replace Mikel Antonio, they're
Mm,
definitely going to sign Jonathan David. Do you think those clubs are really going to pay 60 million euros for that guy? No.
no,
Right?
no.
So it's around
Mm,
40 to 40, 35 to 40 million euros. You do a deal in that region. Everton could even go and do that deal as well. And then when he comes in, right, you treat him as a vital part of the squad, but not a starting, a starting member of the starting 11. As simple as that. So for me, I wouldn't say he's a bad striker, but he's not among my top 10 in terms
mm.
of priorities.
Now, that's an interesting one. We're going to do a quick fire once again at the end. But now those options are the ones that you can buy, and you can also afford to buy, a winger and also a left back and a midfielder. That has been considered there. But if they tell you, cause listen, if you don't want those ones, you can get this other guy, but you're not going to be able to make any other signings. Forget about
Mm.
it. We are going to Serie A. You're going to get Osimhen, but forget about a new left back. Yeah, you have to convince Zinchenko to stay. You're going to use Timber. Forget about a winger. Find out who's going to find a way how you're going to help out Saka, and whether it's going to be Jesus on the right or you're going to keep Nelson. And forget about a midfielder. Convince Partey to stay. You only have Partey and Jorginho for next season. Get Osimhen, but no other signing.
Osimhen, but no other signing. I mean, the question is, are we really going to rely on a 14-man squad like Mikel Arteta
Mm,
relied on them last season? I think they
mm,
did incredibly well, but it
mm,
is risky. That is why
mm,
I wouldn't agree to this deal. When you look at clubs like Chelsea, when you look at clubs like Man United
Yeah.
and Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City actually, they have broad squads, and that's why you see that Chelsea were able to turn their season around like in the last part of
Hmm.
the campaign because they could afford to. Enzo
Yeah.
Fernandez went out of the team, and miraculously they got better.
Mm.
Manchester United suffered injuries, and they didn't have it. They don't have a big squad, and they were absolutely decimated. This Arsenal team, because we have young players and they're playing a lot of games and they're competing, they will pick up injuries. There's no question about that. I know people don't want to hear this, but we will pick up injuries. So when you pick up an Odegaard injury, a Partey
Mm.
injury, and an injury in defense, are you the same Arsenal? Are you able to progress the ball from Saliba to Partey to Odegaard anymore? You can't. And right now, we don't have in-house solutions to William Saliba. We don't have in-house solutions to Martin Odegaard, and we don't have in-house solutions to a player like Declan Rice. So if you lost any two of or any three, despite the fact that you have a 14-man squad, you
Mm.
are really losing out, and you're really going to find it difficult to catch up. So I think this summer we broadened we broadened the sample space Mikelta can
Yeah.
choose from, and then we can start doing one big signing. Maybe starting next summer, maybe starting January. So
That's a really
Osimhen,
interesting. Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting one. So quick fire. So they tell you you have to choose one between these strikers. You're not choosing the price, just choose one. Tony for 65 million or Solanke for 65 million.
Tony for 65 million.
Gyökeres for 100 million or Solanke for 65 million.
Ah, I mean that's difficult. Let's
Mhm.
see. 100 million Gyökeres, 25. 100 million Gyökeres is 25.
Gyökeres for 100 million or Osimhen for 125 million.
Ooh, 125. Osimhen for 125.
Interesting. Jonathan
There's
David
value
for
there.
50. Jonathan David for 50 million or Zaxi for 34 million.
Jonathan David for 50 million. Zax is the
Okay.
winger.
Okay. Tony for 65 million or Zaxi for 34 million.
20 for 60 million.
Yes, Tony 65 million or Zaxi for 34 million. Which one do you think would be the better choice if that's your all
I
that
have a
was remaining?
problem with Ivan Tony already. I already have a problem with Ivan Tony. Zax is not a striker, guys. He's not a striker. Tony 65 million. He's a center forward.
Okay, Gyökeres for 100 million or Evan Ferguson for 70.
Even Ferguson for 70.
That was a quick one. Okay, now you've run out of options. Mateta for 25 million or
Oh my god.
Calvert-Lewin for 25 million.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Which one would you have between those two?
Mateta. How did you think
Mateta.
about Mateta?
Who would you have between those two? If you've completely
Oh
run
my
out of
god.
options and you're desperate.
How old is Mateta? 28?
I think somewhere like that. I have no idea.
Okay. But Calvin Lewin, like, does he even play football, man?
Yeah,
Does he even
yeah.
play
That's a
football?
terrible. That would be an awful buy, man. I can't play 2 games in a row.
I'll just go Mateta. I'll just go Mateta
Mm.
and tell him
Okay.
if you sign, never ever make
Mhm.
any utterance. This is the golden. This is your lottery win. Like, never ever complain.
Okay. Would you get Jonathan David for 50 million or Joao Pedro from Brighton for 50 million?
Joao Pedro. Joao Pedro.
Okay. Last one. Danny Welbeck for 15 million or keep Eddie Nketiah?
S- Are you serious right now?
I'm giving you some tough options. I'm giving you some tough options here.
Oh my god. You know the thing with Danny Welbeck,
Mm.
his center forward play has improved a lot under Dizabi and Brighton.
I
The
actually liked
time
him
he
at
spent
Arsenal,
there.
the pace.
Yeah,
I liked it.
yeah. With Eddie Nketiah,
Mm.
I just kind of feel like you cannot get 10 good games out of him.
Mm.
Like, he's so mediocre. That's my problem with him. But also Dan
Mm.
Welbeck is not a goal scorer. Like, he can do other things
Mm.
apart from scoring goals. That's my problem with him. I would keep Eddie. I would keep Eddie because with Eddie I can get some 5 good goals maybe a season. With the
Okay,
Welbeck, he
yeah.
misses chances for fun. That guy, like for
Okay,
fun.
let us know that in the comment section between those 9 options or these 8 options that I've given. Which ones would you have if that was the only choice that we had in terms of getting strikers? But that was a really good conversation. We've actually done the whole podcast talking about just the striker situation. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. That was me and Cozy once again. Make sure to check out the videos we did yesterday. We talked about Sesko on his channel. We talked about the likes of Fofana on everything Arsenal, and check out the live stream on Cozy's channel later on today. The link is in the title. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.